Hi friends, David here from Learn Christmas Lighting, and this is take one for you, but take three for me. And today we're going to do a show in a box. So what I'm going to do is basically start from scratch, though the lights are already hung because this is the third time I've had to do this video due to technical issues. Totally my fault. And we're going to show you, step by step, start to end, how a simple show gets put together. In fact, this show's actually bigger than the first year I did in X-Lights, or well, it was Vixen back then that I used. And so totally applicable. Going to walk you through so that, especially if you're new to this, you can really understand the steps that it takes to put something like this together. So let's dive in. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm here in X-Lights and I'm going to build my layout. Now, if you haven't launched X-Lights before, first thing it's going to do, first time you launch, it's going to prompt you and say, we need a show folder, give us one. Usually documents and creating an X-Lights folder in your documents is great. If you have an existing file and you want to start over, like I'm going to do, we're going to change permanently here. We're going to do YouTube tutorial 4-23-2. Oops. So I just need to create a new folder with that name because I did one end of March and then I realized that file was bad. Now we're on the second one today. And we've got a nice blank file here. We can hit save. I just like to make the red save go away. You don't actually have to hit it. Go to our layout. And we're going to start bringing in the elements that we're going to use in our show. So in this case, I want to create a new download. And I drag a box, and then this pops up. Ready for it? Get ready. It'll pop up any second now. Wait for it. Bueller. There it is. Sometimes it takes a minute, but hey, it's free software, and it's awesome free software. So what you get here are all the models from the major brands. So I'm just going to search Chroma Flake because that's what I have. It takes me right to it. I have a Chroma Flake 24 3-prong. That is what's in my show. I've had these for quite a few years, 2018, 2017 I got them. And so we're going to hit Insert Model. And this is what you need for anything that's a shaped coroplast, anything that's a shaped model. You're going to insert your pixels into that model. In order to figure out the right way to insert those, right-click and hit Node or Wiring View. This shows you from the rear of it, you can sit right with it, how to wire it from the manufacturer specs to make it show up right. These days, most of the manufacturers, including Boscoyo, I believe it's free on all new props, they're going to actually print on the back of the core the order, so you don't really need this, but if you have any issues, you can always compare the two. So I've got my first one set up. I'm going to go ahead and copy, Control-C or Apple-C, Control-V, copy and paste, drag my number 2 down. This is basically how they're laid out. Then copy and paste for number 3, I believe. Yep, that's how I did it. I did 3, and I did 4. Okay. Next, I have some matrix panel from Boscoyo Studios as well. So to show you what those are the modular matrix panel V4. They are, as it will tell you, a matrix that is 4 long lines and 42 nodes in each of those lines for a total of 168 pixels. Now, when you have items like these that are just a simple square matrix or like a tree, you're not going to have a custom model download for them in X-Lights. Why? Because there's multiple ways that you could wire it depending on your show's needs, and it's already in here and simple enough as an existing model. There's no need for them to create one. So I'm going to create a matrix, I'm going to drag it out, and then I get to set it up. Now I've got 3 of these, but I want to set up the first one pretty much completely so that when I copy it, it copies everything over and they match. So now I'm going to go ahead over here. So vertical is my wiring on these. It is 1 string. That's one place that it plugs into the controller. There's 168 notes in that string and 4 zigzags or strands. Once I do that, I can then drag the corners out. And I've got a blue dot right here. That indicates the start of the wiring position for this matrix, okay? And they look about like this, okay? And so Then what we want to do is change that. So it's top left, and I'm actually going to be bottom right with these. So once you change that and hit save, and then reselect it, you'll see that change. I think it changed before I reselected it. And so now I've got this all set up how I want. I'm going to copy and paste it 3 times. Okay. Now let's go ahead and set up. So I'm going to just move these around, get them in approximately the right location. Once you have all your stuff on your house, what I recommend is grab the old phone camera, go and take a picture of everything on your house, typically at like dusk time. And if you can turn the lights on, that helps too, the pixels. Take that picture. It's best if you are at like 1x zoom on your phone, or 2x, but not a wide angle. And then you can actually go and set the background image here in X lights and line everything up to where they are in real life. That will give you the most accurate display. But to get it working, to get things going, that's certainly not required. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and set everything else, plug it in, and be right back. So we're over here, and in a perfect world, but I've done this twice already, we would set this all up for you. So I've gone ahead and I've got this truss here, this lighting truss to represent a house, your house, and I've got all my items. So I've got some S-hooks, some zip ties, some bungee balls, all sorts of stuff. And I've taken my props and we've pushed the pixels in through the back, either on the matrix or the snowflake in the order prescribed, and then we've hung them up. Then we go ahead and we want to plug everything in. So let's take a look at that. So what I have today is I have on the floor here a Kulp K8 controller. It has Wi-Fi, and I've already set up FPP that you can check out our video on that here, and set it up on my home network, okay? Coming out the bottom are all my different ports for my pixels. I've labeled those pigtails, or you could optionally, there's many vendors that sell labels, or some controllers come pre-labeled. I've then taken extensions, and I've taken port 1, put an extension on it, run it to my snowflakes, okay? I went top snowflake, bottom snowflake, then on the other side, top and bottom. The snowflakes are ports 1 and 5, and then the matrix panels are 2, 3, and 4. I plugged them all in individually for simplicity, and because they're real close to the controller, and because I'm running them at full brightness in this example. Okay, and these guys at 168 nodes at full brightness are starting to push about as far as I would go. Typically, in these shows, you're gonna not run full brightness, often 50%, 30%, and you can run more pixels. I often run 2 of these panels together. Regardless, for the sake of example, for the sake of learning, we're plugged in, we've powered up our controller that's on our network, and that means we can go over to X Lights and use a feature called the controller discovery in order to go find that controller. So I'm gonna go ahead, move the camera back, shut off the video lights, and we'll finish our setup here in X Lights. All right, so we're back in X Lights, it's dark. And now, if your controller's already set up and it's on your same network, you can use the controller discovery for most controllers. In this case, being the lighting guy that I am, there are extra controllers that I'm just going to select and hit delete because they are controllers on my network, but this is what we're working with here today. It's already all set up and all of the things are filled out correctly because we use the discovery. If you have a controller that doesn't show up with the discovery, whether it's a different brand that's not doesn't support the auto discovery or what have you, you can add Ethernet, and then you choose from the drop down the brand. You're going to choose the model, all the stuff that's filled out here. Okay, I'm just going to delete that. And then as long as the IP address matches an actual device, you'll see the green dot. You'll be able to hit open, go to that controller's home screen. For now, I'm going to go to visualize here. And we can adjust the box size and font size. I've actually already done that so we can see everything. And we see, okay, we've got our Chroma Flake 1, 2, 3, 4 here in the model section. And then we've got our 3 matrices. So what we do is we just simply drag them over. So port 1, what we hooked up to there were 2 snowflakes. Notice when I have multiple items on a port, I line them up like this. Okay, if I did it like this, it doesn't work. But when they overlap, when they get that highlight over it, that means they'll stack and they'll be in order plugged in to that controller output. This will work as long as they're set up with the same settings in terms of brightness and things like that. If there's a difference in brightness or smart receiver config or something between two models, they'll stack vertically and they won't work. Okay, so be aware of that. So my Chroma Flakes are on 1 and 5, and then my matrices are on 2, 3, and 4. Drag those on there, hit save, hit upload output, and now we've uploaded output to our controller. So this tells the controller where everything is, how many pixels it is, what's plugged into where. I can still go in here and move the layout around. So if I move things in here, I can still do that as long as I don't change where things are plugged in. I won't have to do a re-upload. Now, let's go ahead and build our first sequence. So we're going to press new sequence here, animation, in this case 20 frames per second, quick start. I'm going to go ahead and save that and call it new. And saving it does a couple things. It basically creates actual saved file for your sequence, but it also creates what's called an FSEQ file, which is what your show players like FPP that we're using here on a Kulp controller actually read. Okay. Now I want to put an effect across all my lights. I can't do that right now because I don't have an all group. How do I do that? Well, I just go to layout here and I create one. So if I quickly select everything, Control A, Apple A works great. You can highlight them all over here, whatever. Right click. And then we want to go create group from selections. I'm going to call it all, hit enter, and now I've got that group. Hit save, back over to the sequencer. Now you're going to notice my group does not show up, okay? So I'm going to right click and hit edit display elements. And anything that we've created that basically we created since we made this sequence is over here in the available section. We just arrow it over. It adds into the added section. We can close this window. Now we've got it. So I'm going to go ahead, select red, white, red, green, and blue, and then select the bars. I'm going to put that on our all group here. Drag it out to 15 seconds. So now we've got a bars going up. I'm going to copy and paste it and do a sideways one, so left. And then I'm going to hit save. So this now creates my FSEQ file. Now, I'm wireless, but I am using the DDP protocol, so I actually can turn on output to lights, and it should work, and with this many lights, it won't be laggy. If you're doing a lot of lights, it will get laggy over Wi-Fi, plus I am on this PC wired into the home network, so it's only Wi-Fi to the controllers, making it a little more stable. So if I turn that on and play it, we'll see it working on our lights. We see it go up, we see it go sideways. But this isn't how we play our show. So I'm going to turn off output to lights, and now I need to upload this sequence into my show player to make it happen. So I'm going to hit save. It renders out my FSEQ when that progress bar finishes, and it says updated in blah, blah, blah time. Now I can go to Tools, FPP Connect. It goes and finds my FPP items. It gives me an error right there about old FPP versions. I'm selecting to upload only to the one we're using here. But again, if you're just starting, you probably only have one. Then I need to grab the correct sequence. This will show you just the show folder, but you can dive into other folders as well. Hit upload. Whoop. You watch the progress bar. We get a little success message. Life is good. Now we can go back to the controllers tab for most controllers with a show player built in. Hit save for fun, because I hate seeing that red. I think it's fine though. Hit open, and then we get this window in our web browser, at which point we can go and just find our new FSEQ, hit play. And just like that, it's playing on our lights. Now, it's not scheduled or anything like that, but that gives you the very basic, hey, this is how to get something going. Of course, in other tutorials, in our FPP tutorials and things like that, we've got much, much more on scheduling, on setting up, and in fact, we have a whole A to Z course inside of the Learn Christmas Lighting Academy that you can check out, as well as our support in the forums. Teaches you everything A to Z. Now, back to the computer. Your sequence will not repeat unless you check this box that says repeat. Thus, I went in the dark. But regardless, I also got to tell you, also linked below, we'll have all of the items that we used in this video. Now, we're a vendor here at Lauren Christmas Lighting, and we carry the Matos Designs pixels, which are an awesome pixel, really reliable. They made a lot of the improvements that other vendors are talking about this year, saying, oh, we've got new pixels, more reliable, etc., etc. Matos Designs made those improvements without telling you last year. That's why we love their pixels so much that we carry them at the Lauren Christmas Lighting store. We have them in stock, and we would love your help. We would love your business if you've learned from us here. We'll also link to all the stuff at Boscoyo Studio. We're not going to link to a controller. We'll link to this controller, but ultimately you could use a lot of controllers so that you can get up and running, follow this tutorial, and get your first show up and running in X-Lights with a controller, rocking and rolling, and pat yourself on the back. So, if you like this video, be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you guys in our next video. Thanks.